What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back to a new review. For today I have the Doogee MIX, one of the first budget-friendly so-called bezel-less phones in 2017. Well, by now we all know that the phone isn't exactly bezel-less. So in order to create that bezel-less look, they had to remove that top forehead that you usually get with most phones these days, and that meant that they had to place the camera somewhere else. So the camera is placed at the bottom of the screen, and that means that you're gonna have to turn the phone around every time you wanna take a selfie, because otherwise the selfies don't turn out that great. Luckily for us, the phone still has the speaker on top, and we also have the proximity and the light sensor in about the same spot, and that's good because we've seen other manufacturers that actually remove those sensors. So even though the phone is far from being bezel-less, at least it's smaller than most other phones with 5.5-inch screens, and that's great because you can actually use this with one hand. Not to mention that it looks very different, and wherever you go people look at you very strangely because they haven't seen anything like it. The Doogee MIX is powered by the Helio P25 CPU. This is an octa-core CPU that's also paired with 6 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of internal storage. Out of that 64 gigs of internal storage, you have about 54 gigs left, and luckily you can expand the internal storage with an SD card, so the phone can take SD cards as well. Performance-wise, well, the Helio P25 is definitely not a powerhouse, but even like that, the phone performs quite well with most apps and games that you're gonna play with it, so I don't really have any complaints about its performance. Sure, the software could have been better optimized and they could have got rid of that horrible skin that they have on top of Android 7 because it just slows down the phone, but if you go ahead and install Nova Launcher, well, it's gonna feel like a brand new phone. The 6 gigs of RAM helps a lot with multitasking, so you can keep a whole bunch of apps running in the background, and surprisingly enough the phone performs quite well for gaming. Of course it's gonna get quite hot, mostly the back gets hot whenever you're playing games, but I haven't had any issues with any games that I played on it. Moving back to the physical aspect of the phone, so on the front we have a 5.5-inch screen that's a Super AMOLED display that has a resolution of 720p. Now, even though 720p it's not that bad, you can definitely tell the difference if you look at this phone and another phone that has a 1080p screen. The colors are very vibrant, but maybe a bit too saturated for some people's tastes, but the viewing angles are great and the blacks are very deep, so I don't really have too many complaints about the screen. And keep in mind that the phone costs only about $180, so you don't really get to see too many phones with a Super AMOLED display these days for that price range. The screen sensitivity is also great and maybe a bit better than most other phones in this price range, and those navigation buttons that we have at the bottom of the screen can also be customized. Now, if you don't like using the on-screen navigation buttons, you can always use the fingerprint scanner as a home button or a return key, so you have that option as well. And that brings us to the fingerprint scanner. So the fingerprint scanner is very hit and miss. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So sometimes you have to press it like 6-7 times and nothing happens. So it is annoying enough that I stopped using it. So keep that in mind. The fingerprint scanner is definitely not the best that I've tried. Moving on to the 5-megapixel front-facing camera, well, the camera is a bit disappointing, but I was kind of expecting that considering the price of the phone. So if you have plenty of light, the pictures kind of show up okay, so you can use them for social media, but as soon as there isn't enough light, well, the pictures don't look good at all. And since we are talking about cameras, on the back of the phone we have a 16-megapixel camera and an 8-megapixel camera, but like most phones under $200, well, the cameras are a bit disappointing. The camera app doesn't look too bad and it's fairly quick, and we also have a whole bunch of modes in there. So you have the photo mode, you have the blur mode, which is also called the portrait mode for other devices. We have a black and white mode in there as well, and a pro mode as well. So if you're into taking manual pictures, you could definitely use that mode. The pictures taken with the bokeh effect are far from being great. So basically, like all the other phones that we've seen under $200, the phone makes a circle in the middle, so wherever the focusing point is, and everything outside of that circle is blurred out and everything in the circle it's not. So yeah, they don't look good at all. If you take regular looking pictures, so you use just one of the cameras on the back, the pictures look acceptable. However, not mind-blowing, but acceptable. The colors are accurate and the pictures seem to have quite a lot of detail in them as well. Now, as soon as it gets dark, well, it's a different story. So first of all, the phone can barely focus. So if you're planning to take pictures in low light, yeah, it's gonna take you a while for the phone to actually focus. And the pictures don't look good. I mean, they're blurry, they're grainy, they just don't look good in low light. Moving on to the phone's frame. So the frame is made out of metal and it gives the phone a more premium feel, I would say. So on the right hand side we have the power button and the volume keys. Unfortunately these ones kind of rattle, so whenever you're moving the phone the keys kind of move too. And if you're in a very quiet room, well, it could be annoying. On top we have the 3.5mm audio jack and the sound quality it's maybe just below average, I would say. On the left we have the SIM card tray slot, and as I mentioned before, this phone can take a SD card or 2 SIM cards. And moving all the way to the bottom we have the microphone, the speaker and the micro USB port. Now there is something strange about the bottom of the phone, and maybe this is just me, but if you look straight at the phone you're gonna notice that the USB port it's not in the center, and at least for me it kind of bothers me. It makes the phone feel off-centered. The phone supports OTG as well, and that means that you can plug in any USB stick and the phone can read whatever you have on that USB stick. And the phone also supports fast charging, so it takes about an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes to fully charge the device from 0 to 100. And since we are talking about charging, inside this phone we have a 3380 mAh battery. Now you're gonna be able to make it run an entire day and get about 5 hours of screen on time, I'm gonna say. But I couldn't tell you for sure because there is a bug that doesn't allow the phone to show any detailed specs for the battery life there. So I'm estimating somewhere around 5 to 6 hours of screen on time. So you're definitely gonna make it run an entire day, but not more. The GPS unit inside the phone also works good. It only takes a couple of seconds for the phone to find your location, and once your location is found, it doesn't seem to lose it. Of course, using Google Maps also works great. For connectivity, the phone can connect to 4G networks, but we don't have NFC, so don't imagine that you're gonna be using Android Pay with this, but at least we have dual band Wi-Fi, and the speeds that I got over 4G and over Wi-Fi are good. Aside from that, I can tell you that the phone comes pre-installed with a lot of so-called features, but me personally I found all of them annoying and getting in my way, so I actually turned all of them off. And the first thing I did when I got the phone was to change the launcher, because the launcher that comes with it is just absolutely horrible. It feels like you're in a cartoon that's like a never-ending cartoon. So yeah, just install Nova Launcher on this phone and you're gonna be much happier. And it's time to conclude this video. So overall, for the price, the phone isn't bad. I mean, we get the exact same performance that we get with all the other phones in the exact same price range. The camera performance is just like all the other phones in the same price range. And realistically, we can't expect that much for like $170. And if you're buying this phone, you're definitely buying it for the way it looks, not for some crazy specifications or performance. And we're keeping in mind the price, it's only about $170. So this is what we get. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did like it, press that like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.